Good afternoon, everyone. I'm James Fraher, host of World Events on this Thursday afternoon, March 6th. And today I have a guest. He's running for U.S. Congress out of the 11th District in Illinois. His name is Charlie Kim. I have met him several times and have talked to him pretty well in depth a few times. Very interesting candidate, very smart and intelligent. He's done a lot of work. He's also worked with things with Kosovo, and we'll let him talk about that when we get started. I'm just going to play this one video real quick, and then we'll get him on stage.
More conservative values, and I would like to have it more back in the days when I was growing up. I'm kind of old. I actually came here when I was 1972 from South Korea, and I used to remember watching shows like Happy Days with the Fonzie, things with the Brady Bunch. Later on, you had something like Alex P. Keaton with Family Ties, you had with Growing Pains. You had all these shows that actually had some kind of meaning, what it meant to not only be a good family, but to do your duty as a citizen. If you're a U.S. citizen, you participate and contribute towards the future. So one of my mottos that I keep saying, and it's not really mine, but it was from a colonel in the past, and people may know it, it's freedom isn't free, it's earned. And that's what I learned when I came to this country, because when I came, we ended up turning homeless, even though I came from a family that was very wealthy and diplomats. When I came to the country, this American dream became an American nightmare for me. So that's the reason that I realized if we're going to have the America that we want, we have to be like our forefathers. And once again, we need to be able to be in a position to earn it. And that's why I'm running for Congress.
Well, that's Charlie Kim on a little bit of his history. And as you can see, his family's an immigrant from South Korea. And look what he's established. And he can tell you about some of his history, what he's done, what he's been experienced in. And without any further delay, let's welcome Charlie to the stage.
Hello, How you doing, Charlie? Jim?
Good.
How you doing? I always enjoy talking with you.
It's always great. I like that video, so it gives a little introduction about you. Go ahead and do about a 5-minute rundown of your experiences, what you've done, even if you've worked with the White House, if you worked with the intelligence, whatever, just give it a rundown on it.
Great. Well, as you heard from my video, I came to the United States during the 70s. And the problem with that is, Jim, my name's Charlie, and it was the Vietnamese War. I had a nice lifestyle in Korea, and I had even diplomatic grandparents and people who were in international business, and we had a very privileged life. So the great thing is we came from riches, you could say. But when I came to America, this land of opportunities, I had two things that actually brought me down, you could say. It got to a point where I came in the 1970s. It was the Vietnamese War. So it was difficult to get in, but we had a preferential entrance because one of my grandfathers was a diplomat and ambassador with the U.S. Department of State. So I still have the letterhead picture that actually with the State Department that gave us that status. But when we came, it was the Vietnamese War. My name's Charlie. And if you know, Jim, that's what they called the Viet Cong communist Vietnamese as Charlies. So there used to be a game called Red Rover, let Charlie come over. Well, I lived in Woodridge, and the only kid from age 8 to 12 in my grade school, it was more like Red Rover, never let VC Charlie come over. So it was terrible. And I was really shunned from a lot of kids. I'm the kid that used to eat lunch in the hallways because no kid wanted me to sit at their lunch table. Well, God bless my homeroom teacher, Miss Brassington, who I still remember, and she allowed me to have lunch with her at times back at homeroom. Well, things started changing somewhat, but then we had another downfall, which was trying to start two businesses. One was in the martial art industry, which is kind of saying that it was the Kung Fu fighting and Bruce Lee who thought you could lose with a martial arts studio in America. Well, it happened that we failed. And then we also failed at a liquor store later on. So we pretty much lost all our wealth and we couldn't go back. So it was terrible because I was in a position where I couldn't understand really being at the age of 6 years old. So the main point is that I started learning that freedom isn't free. And I went through a period where I was homeless because after we lost everything, my mother and father separated. And it was bad enough Mr. and Miss Brady would separate. Well, it was a sin for us to do it, being Korean and having traditional values. So the big problem is we're at a state where we pretty much had to make it here or we pretty much perish here. And I remember this when I was 6 years old. My parents told me, go look at yourself in the mirror. And I thought there was pizza on my face or something because what I know, I'm a little kid. So I went to go look in the mirror and they said, and they weren't being racist. They said, you have blonde haired, blue eyes. And the point is that you are not an American because the reason is that you're not traditional here, but you become an American while you're here. And that's one of the things I kept remembering, that we have a country that gives us opportunities, but we have to earn it. And the thing is, pretty much everybody here is an immigrant, and except if you're a native Indian, and they kind of got pushed up to the area of the North and the South in Canada and Mexico. But the key point is that I started realizing we do have opportunities. And what changed my life, I ended up playing football, Jim, at Downers Grove North, and we were ranked like top 10 in state. And I was a starter. I made the A team. And now I'm the only Oriental kid that is a person who's in top football team and recognized. So all the kids love me and they all want me to sit at their lunch table. And they're like, Charlie, come over here. We'll give you some dessert and so on. And if I get free food, I'm going, Jim. So I ended up getting friends and meeting people who understood that there is opportunities and how things can change. Eventually, I went on to go to Northern Illinois, ended up studying law and international relations there. I switched over to the area to work at the courthouses and do a little work with American Express in the financial industry. Got a scholarship MBA out in the East Coast, eventually get into Harvard at the graduate school, specifically in the area of international relations, in the area of international economics and international politics. And then I focused more into the area of working with the government. Got an opportunity to work in the White House in the area of analysis and negotiation in the Trade Representative's Office, where you do tariffs and sanctions. So I do understand a lot about the tariffs and sanctions that we're currently been talking about with the Trump administration. I also got an opportunity to come back and then go to Harvard Business and Harvard Law Schools in the area. And if all breaks down, I got my certification in the area of mediation and arbitration judge. So if I fail at becoming a congressman, I will actually possibly be the first Oriental Judge Judy. So I have a backup plan, Jim. And then the other thing is that I got to work in the area of advisory for Congress for 5 years, from 2004 to 2009. I was the co-chair of the Business Economic Council Advisory and won the National Republican Congressional Leadership Award. And finally, I finished in 2018 to 2023 as a diplomat with Fulbright, as a specialist working in the area of international security. I was in Kosovo, Germany, and did some work with Ukraine, and also keeping with the international intelligence community. I have been keeping up with the issue we have currently with Iran, which we might be able to talk about a little bit more. But my four stances right now on my policy issue is the economy, with parts of tariffs, as well as lower taxes with the One Big Beautiful Bill that I was able to work on some with Speaker Johnson's office. The second is healthcare, which is to be able to have lower health costs for all Americans. I also have the issue with the Family Rights and Responsibility Act, which also incorporates the parents' rights from Congressional 118th to now it's 119th Congress, and it has been incorporated under the bill of HR 650, sponsored by Virginia Fox. And then the last one is immigration, which I've been involved for over 20 years, and also with a community of learning about intelligence for 23 years. So that's pretty much the roundup of my story, and really comes down to it that the American dream can be alive, And that's one of the reasons I'm running, because I believe in order to be able to have that understanding of what our community is, we need to be able to get back to our foundation and having certain kind of values that made our country great. So if you believe in your country, you have to believe in your community. Thank you.
Very well put. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. And it's your opinion. Your family came over here. They had to strive for themselves. What do you think about all these illegals that's coming over here and it's all provided for them? Now, your family and you were assimilated into our culture and, the United States. And there's a lot of them, it seems they don't want to assimilate and they just want to take what they're given. And what's your perspective on that?
Well, I am an immigrant, as a lot of us who have came even through our grandparents, but I'm a first generation immigrant. And the thing that I believe, and when I was taught, like I gave you that example with my parents, you come to a country, you have to understand there's already a culture, or at least one that's being developed. So, in order to make so called America what it's supposed to be, we have to respect everyone's culture. Now, I don't mind if someone comes and wants to practice certain religious practices. For example, I was born as a Buddhist, even though I'm a Christian. The thing is that if you want to pray, fine, but you have to also respect the main culture of the country. The forefathers, for example, of our country, of America, based the Declaration of Independence that that's going to be coming up in July 4th of 250th birthday, is based on the foundation of Christian values. They were Puritans. So there is a foundation here. But when you start getting a lot of different kind of values and you're trying to change that because everybody wants their own, we have lost the base of our foundation. And as they say, when you have cracks in your floor, sooner or later, you're going to fall. And that's one of the reasons that we need to make it solid. When I mean that is, like you said, when people are coming into our country and getting more a little technical, under Security Borders Act 2023, it clearly states under Title II and Title I, before a person comes into this country who's an immigrant, they're supposed to apply for asylum with a country that allows that. That's Mexico. So I agree with what Trump was doing, saying that, hey, you guys got to start enforcing the law, that before you start letting all these people migrate into the United States, you need to give them an opportunity first to become Mexican citizens. We didn't uphold that. Well, even worse, when they came here under Title II, it says if we cannot manage nor be able to give resources to these migrants, then we need to deport them within 60 days. And this is a problem because it becomes a burden to the people who are already here, such as so-called US taxpayers and citizens. Look at Laken Riley. That person who killed her was actually, in 2 years before that, was already offense with crime of abusing a child, a second crime for theft, and then the third crime was when he actually killed a US citizen who was jogging in Georgia. This should never happen. So my thought on your particular question is, I welcome legal immigrants, but not illegal immigrants, because when they come in illegally, we have no way to track them, nor have they been welcome to be able to be in our so-called home. Now, when analogy that people gave me, and I always believed in, you come to my house, you could sit on my furniture, you could even compliment it and be able to enhance it by maybe making it cleaner or being able to add on another chair. But don't change my furniture. It's my home. So if you respect me as I respect you to be my guest, you have to adapt to my home and be able to give me the respect that this is my home that you're welcome into. Once you've proven that you've contributed and been able to give, then your room can do what they want. But until then, don't try to change my particular home, my furniture, and tell me when I could come out of my room and when I can't. This is the problem. And in other words, we should be able to let them be here, be able to get citizenship. However, if you come in a legal method and you're not actually defending our particular respect of our laws and our particular ideology, then you have to realize you are doing this without authorization, and it's also disrespectful. That's why there's a difference of coming in as legal immigrants from illegal immigrants.
Exactly. And the thing is it really pisses me off during the open borders of Biden, uh, that we were basically mandated to get the COVID vaccine. And those people that came across the border, they never were mandated to get the COVID vaccine. And here our
Yes.
own citizens were. And what do you think about the protesters that supporting the illegal immigration with the, we have our own crime here in the United States. But as Trump said, and it's been proven from some other guests I've had, that they did empty out their jails and the prisons, and they did send over some of the worst of the worst. Why are we exasperating that our own issues with crime with additional crime from other countries?
Well, I did some research on this, and I spoke with a speaker, staff members to find a little bit more insight, and even with Congressman LaHood, who is in the Intelligence Committee, and I've spoken with him personally as well as the staff members that he has. And one of the biggest problems we have is that President Biden at the time, understanding that he wanted to allow immigrants come in. But what happened is there was a mass amount of immigration that we did not do background checks and know who's coming into our country. And this is a problem because we had people from China even who aren't even a Latin American from the South trying to come through the borders from Mexico. Because why? It's a lot easier, especially when you have a criminal record and you're not a person who actually should be in the country, to sneak in than be able to go through the legal process. That's why I kept emphasizing about legal immigration. When we came in as our family, even though we had diplomatic status with some places, we had to wait and we got a sponsorship. And why I think it's so important to have sponsorships and certain visas is because we need to be able to understand who's coming in. And if something happens, for example, if you want to buy a car, you may need a cosigner. If you want to rent an apartment or a home, you need a cosigner. Well, when you have a sponsor, they could actually help you. There's someone there who's already in the United States who's willing to take responsibility and help you. That's one of the things that I think we need to increase again. If I get into Congress, I will be advocating for stronger stance of sponsorships and visas that actually have merit. Right now, I don't know if you heard, people have probably heard of the H-1 and H-2 visa, and a lot of people understands of people coming in to be able to work with certain talent. Some people are also saying, you heard with Trump administration, you can be able to come in, but you need to pay a certain amount, like $100,000. And one of the reasons he was doing that is to be able to have higher quality. Well, there's a problem in some parts of our visa system as well. There's called the O-1 visa. A lot of people don't know it. Well, the thing is that O-1 visa originated, as you may know, during the times of the 60s and the 70s when we had rock stars, particularly John Lennon and the people with Beatles. We had a lot of talent who were artists and people who were able to give towards our humanity causes and be able to benefit by staying in America. But also we would benefit from their talent and their skills, which I think it's great. However, now we have people who are coming in under the same status, and the most people who are coming in the O-1 visa are influencers on media, social media. So we got people who might be actually dressing half naked, but they're making something like $100,000 a month because of all the hits they're getting. and they're considered more talented than someone who could come in who could actually help us have nuclear energy to help our energy supply and lower our cost of energy for every taxpayer. This is crazy. And I blame the leadership on this because a lot of our leadership doesn't have that concept. So when we're letting people in who shouldn't be here and we are not doing the background checks and letting them come in and be able to just become US citizens, and then you have these people who have excellent talent who can contribute and be able to be here, and we're putting them at third or fourth priority. I blame that on our leadership. I do not blame that on them because they're just being smarter than our Congress members as well as our leadership, such as our Governor Pritzker. He makes it a sanction state, and he doesn't get money anymore from the COVID problems and the sanction areas because President Biden isn't supporting it. And I'm actually for that because they shouldn't be in the area when we're not agreeing to it. And then what's happening is we're paying for it. For example, why are we paying for a CTA system of $800 million? That's the fault of Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago, and Pritzker, the governor, when they're the ones who screwing up. And yes, they came into a mess, but that's their job to solve it. But why should they put the burden on us who are in the suburbs? I'm in DuPage County and we pay the most. We pay $4 million approximately every month for their incompetency. This is a problem, and it trickles down. How does this affect our so-called Congress members? Well, Congress members usually get 10 projects and it's 10 million for each project that they could give to their community. Well, I'm trying to run against Bill Foster. His biggest project was actually around $5 million for, I think it was a bike trail in Geneva. Well, we couldn't have people who are homeless right now or are veterans, people who need money to be able to have more support for schools, because right now we're having so much deficit. And I know teachers in grade schools who have to literally buy their own kind of crayons and markers for their kids. This is stupid. I blame our leadership. I don't always blame the people because they're limited, but our leadership, that's why they're in that position. Their job is to be servants. And they lost that concept of being a servant leader like our forefathers, of John Hancock, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, who didn't even have an education, but he was one of the greatest inventors of the time, and he was well respected, and he became our first diplomat who spoke French and other languages. We need that quality of leadership, and that's one of the reasons I believe I am qualified to be able to be a congressman who will represent the people. And if it gets to a point where my morals change, and I'm quoting you on this, you could have me, Jim, I will not run for another term. Because why? I don't believe in doing something when you can't. There used to be a saying in our football team: you could be the best player on the league. You could have won the Heisman trophy of being the best player in college. But if you can't score with the team we got, you need to get off the field. That's it. It's very simple.
Exactly.
And that's why I believe we need that mentality again.
We do, and the thing is, there's too many people that rely on aid and they don't want to work. But let's go back to the immigration, and you sort of touched on it, and it reminds me. Remember the old show, 90 Day Fiance?
Okay, I don't know that show.
All right. Well, in 90 Day Fiance, what it was, there'd be somebody here in the States, and they're seeing somebody from out of the country. Okay. Once they date, they go see each other. And I know somebody personally who was a 90-day fiance. All right. So he went over there, visit the woman and children 3 times to the Philippines. And eventually they had to go through the paperwork to bring her over here and her children. And the thing is, after that, they had 90 days to get married. Now, the part of that thing is, he has to commend or comment, or he's responsible for that family. And this is what you were relating to, that usually you're sponsored by somebody who's going to help you out, help you get started, where you're not taking the funds from the people that's already here. So everybody, Charlie here, if you listen to what he said in the beginning, what he's been talking about, he has probably a wide more variety of experience in different fields than your normal people running for Congress or senator right now. Uh, they may be a businessman. Well, Charlie's been in business, but you notice he's been in different government capabilities and things where it puts him above the other ones who are probably in it just for themselves. And like Charlie says, you are a servant. When you become a congressman, senator, whether it's a Illinois rep or an Illinois senator, U.S. congressman, U.S. senator, you are a servant of the people. You work for us. We do not work for you. And I like that comment, which you said. Now we we can talk about a lot of things. And understand, I put this down here. Help Freedom Paul's service dogs. I understand you were part of doing something with the veterans, and what Service Dogs Foundation does, they get the dogs donated to them. They're originally located out here in Chillicothe, Illinois, where I'm at. With this, it's about 15 miles north of Peoria. They train the dogs, they feed them, uh, they train them, and then they give them to a service member or a first responder with PTSD. So you've had some experience with that. Go ahead and tell me what you've done with that issue.
Well, a lot of people don't know it, but when I came back from area of Kosovo in Germany, I had an opportunity to work with NATO and their forces because we're in security forces. And there was a lot of special operation members there. I never saw so many berets. I saw red berets, black berets, green berets, and it was very humbling because it was incredible. I went to the process of being an naval officer in Repo Reserve Intelligence Program officer in the area of San Diego. I switched towards the Air Force at March Air Force Base and trying to get into the 452nd Evacuation Unit that to go off for deployment and also take people out. I also got to train a little with the Air Force Knights to be able to understand how to be able to be prepped. So I got background of military. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish my full time because I was during BRAC, the 2000 period. I was trying to get in from 2001, just before 9/11. So my intention for Syria was just going in because there was a war. There was no war. But 6 months later, a war broke out and I was already going through the process. So I kept continuing, but I wasn't able to finish as a reserve 8 years. So I didn't get an honorable discharge. Ironically, I ended up getting an opportunity to work with special forces in places when I was working with the U.S. Department of State in 2018, 2023. My last assignment was actually in Kosovo in 2023, period 2022, to be able to have a security force built because out in that area, Serbia used to be one country and then Kosovo broke off. The person who was my particular advisor and the person who helped me debrief when I came back from that assignment was the supreme commander of NATO forces at the time when the war was won, with the United States backing. Kosovo had won the war in 1999 and became their own nation of being a sovereign, independent nation for the time being. Now they're not part of NATO. And why I say this is important is we have situations, as you know, right now with Israel. We have problems with Ukraine. Ukraine is not an official member of NATO, but we have certain countries under our particular holdings that we protect because of our national interest. And that's why with things that President Trump is doing, for example, trying to go after these so-called bad guys and things that we're going with Iran, I think it is important to take certain initiative. Now, we do have to follow the process of our Constitution, so there is certain kind of questions there, but there's no doubt that these people who are pretty much being, you could say, taken to our concern is important, because without that, it's just a matter of time that they will probably harm us, and they're harming us already indirectly. So my point is that when we have that notion like you're talking about, it's very important that we understand where we stand in the country and how we're protecting our nation in various ways. So I think that in order to be able to protect our country, we need to strengthen our military. And even those people who have served, I contribute now as a Goodwill ambassador for the U.S. Department of State. I am at Heinz Center right now, and it is a position that you have to actually get ID'd and slight clearance. But the thing is, and it actually took me harder, I had to go like 5 times to be able to do my fingerprints and my forms. And it seemed like it was harder to get a clearance with the Veteran Affairs being a Goodwill ambassador than it did actually working for the U.S. Department of State as a diplomat. So I'm stating that people do take this seriously. And why I say this is we should, because veterans contribute certain things to our country. And if we could help them with these kind of things when they have post-trauma and they need to have some sort of, you say, companionship, and it's known fact, people who are pet lovers, they will know that they are someone who can relate. They might not be able to talk. When I say they, these animals, they do understand, and there's emotion and feelings, and it does help our veterans. And if I believe we could help our veterans, we need to do that. One issue that I think is important, beside the fact of this particular thing with having dogs and pets who are given to veterans who need emotional stability, we need to work on being able to give our veterans the right cost for their veteran care. What I mean by this, I'm a member and I've talked with people at the Military Officers of America Association. And the thing is that I started realizing we have a system that says we want to help our veterans, but knowing working at the VA hospital centers, they get a certain stipend, so it's cheaper. But when they need a facility that's close by them, because I know people in our district that are 2.5, 3 hours away, all the way in Belvedere, from areas of a major VA hospital like Heinz, that's all the way back towards Chicago. And the thing is, if they have a heart attack or something, they go to an emergency room that's a hospital out there or something like Endeavor Health. They charge them civilian rates. And that's really a problem, because there's downsizing going on with the VA. But what we should do, I believe, and what I would support, and I am supporting in certain indirectly, but if I get in Congress, I will have a more direct line, and I would even try to co-sponsor or bring this bill to someone who has the capability. It doesn't even have to be me. I don't care if I get the credit, but I care that we get it done. We need to be able to help our veterans. If they need that care, they could go to the most local care facility and be able to get the same rate as they would if they were at a VA hospital center, because there's co-pays and the distance. People can actually be harmed, and they might not even get the service they need because they can't afford it. And that's just not right. Again, what you were saying before, we give free insurance right now to the people who are coming in illegally that even aren't authorized. We bring them in a sanctioned state, so-called Illinois, and it's under the law, actually, if you know the agreement, it was only supposed to be Cook County. That's why they've been trying to work deals and give extra money to people who want to come out to areas of like Naperville, where I'm a committee person for the Republican Party. They want to be able to take them to Aurora, take them to different areas, Springfield. And my point is that the agreement was just in Cook County, and they're putting the burden on the whole state, and we're now even paying it for every Illinoisan. And this is just wrong. This is not the people's choice. This is the choice of our aristocracy in our politics in Springfield. That's got to stop. And it also happens in our government. And that's why I said someone like Bill Foster, who wants to co-sponsor of illegal immigrants to be able to vote under HR 884, even though it didn't pass, Just that idea should not even exist. The example's wrong. And that was in January 2025, which motivated me, one of the reasons to run. Because why should they get the same right as my mother, who never got a high school education because of the Korean War, and she was a POW at 10 years old making rice balls for North Koreans, and then she comes to America, cleans apartments for 50 years, and I'm cleaning those apartments with her when we were homeless because we found a place where we could actually have somewhere warm and be able to have warm food by cooking on an oven and actually going to the bathroom in a clean toilet. I'm telling you, I was cleaning the toilets and I had no problems after I couldn't find a toilet when I was homeless. So I'm like, sure, I'll clean it, Mom. I have no problems with that. And you become humble, but you start realizing the benefits our country gives us. But again, these people who are coming in illegally, they're getting handouts. They're even getting vocational education tuitions, where I know people who are trying to go to college DuPage, people who are trying to go to something like LaSalle Community College, and they have to carry 2 jobs to be able to pay for their tuition. And they've been paying taxes and their family's been paying taxes. This is wrong. We've lost our value.
This is what I hope hurts the Democratic Party. Now, real quick, people say that Trump did not have the authorization to go in and bomb Iran. Now, there's the War Powers Act. And from what I read, he notified the 8 people he needs to notify. And then he has up to 60 days before Congress can get into it and make a decision about actually longer than that. Am I correct or wrong on that?
You are correct. However, people are contesting that under that particular act, which is true. The thing is that they were not properly notified. That's the argument with something like Senator Durbin. And the thing is that he is now objecting of that action. But again, one of the things people forgot is Iran is not our friend. Since 1979, we have had a fallout. Because if you remember, that was a time of the Iranian Revolution, and we separated from them.
Ousted.
Yep. Exactly. You know your history, which is good. And this is the job of Congress members to tell their constituents about this stuff, but they don't allow them. So yeah, they manipulate the information, and that's why people can't decide. And that's why I said we lost the value of being a servant leader, so-called congressional representatives. We lost that. And that's what we have to get back to. That's what I want to perform as a representative for the people. I believe one of our motto is people first is America first. Trump believes in this. And I think President Trump needed to take action with certain things, because people don't know this, and give you a little insight of the intel area that I know, because I still have people who are in that vicinity. And I am a person who is one of the leading intelligence community associations. I'm the president of the Great Lakes region, so I get a lot of insight right now. Well, the thing you should know is that Iran has about 99% people who are Islamic republics. And the thing is, they have a unitary presidential system. So they do have a president, but it's a dictatorship. So the Shah, the person who's their top person, who's vacant right now, is the person who has the final say. And that person is not for America. Well, another thing people don't know, Iran has approximately 60% of HEU. HEU is actually area of uranium. It's high energy uranium. You only need 20% to be able to make bombs. They have enough to make several bombs. And if they have that power, they're going to become another North Korea, even with more capability, because they have approximately 90 million people in their population, where North Korea only has approximately about 25. So with the size, their capacity and capability, they have tremendous power to be able to be a nuclear force who has not been in diplomatic relationships with us since Eisenhower period. So it's been a long time. And
Well,
even
I
prior to
don't.
that, they broke our relationship. And we have to go through the embassy of Pakistan with them and Switzerland with us, just like they do in North Korea. So this is one of the reasons that I keep up with this information, just like with Kosovo and Serbia, breaking off like Thailand and China, North and South Korea. This is getting to a point that people don't realize. And I was told by one of my Harvard professors, he passed away, Ezra Vogel, and also Joseph Nye Jr., who was the National Security Council, that I had the opportunity to work some things with the White House because of their association. People don't understand that we have threats out there, and if we don't approach them properly, by the time we find out, we're in harm's way. So if you think that having people go out there and having some loss of 5 men, and we shouldn't lose anyone per se, but it happens, it's a lot better than losing 50,000. And that's why
Exactly.
people have to understand.
Well, people don't understand about Iraq, especially younger generation, or they were not taught it in school or whatever. That the Shah was ousted in 1979, as you stated, and taken over by the Islamic top. Oh,
Revolution.
right, which is the Ayatollahs. Okay, and
Correct.
after
That's the
that, they
Shias versus
forget
from the Sunnis.
exactly. They forget about the
Yes.
bombing of or the hostages they held for 444 days.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they captured a ship or a boat that was off their shores
Right.
and humiliated those people. And this is all done usually underneath the Democratic Party. And the thing is, people don't realize and remember Hillary Clinton, when she was the Secretary of State, gave Iran enriched or uranium. Okay. Then you have Obama, who gave 2 planefuls loaded of cash that went directly to Iran. And then after that, Biden, there was money that was held up. He released those monies to Iran. What did they do with that money? They took it and used it for the proxies who actually attacked Israel. They've attacked us uh, and all that. So is Iran is really probably worse than any other country out there right now than with their proxies. And they always said there's even their Ayatollah, death to America, death to Israel. And they've been saying that for years. They've said they wanted Israel wiped off the map. Well, now Israel's, and I don't know, a lot of this Israel's heavily involved in what's going on with the action over there. And I'm fully 100% behind it because what Iran should have been taken care of years ago underneath even the Obama administration, okay, because of what's happened. And then underneath the Biden administration, because they've been bad actors all the way. Then you have the Iran nuclear deal, which they never upheld. They withheld our in, uh, investigators or sightseers from going in. So we withdrew from that. So, and it's one thing you cannot trust their word. They're going to do this, but they don't. And this is what Trump, and he gave it. Hey, let's come to the table. Let's do honest negotiating. You can never trust what Iran was going to say because they would do the opposite or cover it up underneath a different method. And a lot of people don't realize either, after the Shah was ousted of Iran, we put Saddam Hussein in there to hand to Iran. Remember that?
No. Yes, I
Yeah.
do. And that's
Yes.
why he also had the concept of how intelligence and also strategies of American military and intelligence capabilities.
Right. So, that was our buffer zone with Iran was Iraq with Saddam Hussein. Once he was really no value to of us or he was turning against us, then that's how he got taken out. And the younger generation needs to wake up. They need to learn their history besides what they hear in the news recently because they don't know the history of what's happened with Iran. Back to you.
Well, that's I agree on that point because one of the things is our educational system, as I said, the parental rights, and it's a small victory in California. The Supreme Court had now ruled that the parents should know what's going on with their child, especially if with the transgender kind of issues, if kids want to act like a boy, even though they're a biological girl, they need to be informed. And that's part of the HR, so-called the House Representative bill that's currently in the 119th Congress, and that is HR 650, the Family Rights and Parental Act. The Family Rights and Responsibility Act that includes the Parental Rights Act from the 118th Congress, which was the last Congress, because it wasn't able to become law within that session. So we need to support kids to learn, or so-called our future, I call them, to learn about history and also why our country is established. A lot of kids don't even know why we had the American Revolution of 13 independent colonies who actually functioned more like their own country. There was presidents of like Tennessee, presidents of Virginia, and we came together to be able to have that independence. We had the U.S. Constitution that was in 1789 that said how we're supposed to keep our government and be able to protect the individual rights of citizens to not have a tyranny, so-called a king and a dictator. And that came along with the Bill of Rights that was in 1791. And we've lost those values, and our Congress members seem to have lost it. When I was overseas, I had a question from a person who asked me, and they said, Ambassador Kim, what makes democracy so great? And I said, we believe in something. But now we don't believe, and we're not setting the example. You could say it, but you're not practicing it. And that goes to the point that you were saying also earlier in that 1997 period of Iran. The thing is that I was a Reagan Republican. And my point is, President Reagan would never allow something like this, because why? He understood that in order to be able to protect our citizens, those so-called Bill of Rights, for them to be able to have a free nation, we have to foresee our problems. And a lot of people these days, especially with our leadership, do not see these problems. So I think we lack wisdom, or it might be the area of, you hear temptation with Proverbs in the Bible. The thing is, humans are humans, and they seem to have problems that they look for the short gratification of understanding what their purpose is. And going back to our original discussion, we have lost our values from right and wrong. We need to have a foundation. And this is the reason I keep trying. Exactly. Or even if it's not evil, the point is they have to be able to identify harm. There's a thing when I learned in the military that never put yourself in harm's way, because when you do that, you not only jeopardize yourself, you jeopardize all those people under your command, as well as every soldier out there. Because why? They're depending on you to be able to make that sacrifice and be able to get them the information to keep away from harm's way. And we need to start thinking like that as servant leaders. And our Congress members are not doing that, at least most of them. And don't get me wrong, because I have friends who are Iranian, who are so-called Persians, because that's the original thought, Islamic. And as you probably know, with Syria, different from us Syria are Christians that in the Muslim area. So not all so-called Muslims are bad, but like the Sunnis. And they are the ones who are rebels who try to help us in that Muslim area. But the problem is, when you're talking Iran, they have approximately over 90% of Shias. And the thing is that, as you might know, because you keep up with current affairs, Jim, we're starting to find out that they want to have Sharia law. They want to start practicing Muslim law in our country. And I'm not going back to law school. I have a master's in law. I have 2 degrees in the law area. I am not going back. And we have laws here. We need to defend those. Again, don't come to my home and try to change my furniture. You could add on, but don't tell me where I could fit it. That's what they're trying to do.
Plus, they've also said it, part of their doctorate is to destroy America from within They're putting the radical Islamic people in different positions in the government from local all the way to the top. And this is part of the problem we're having. People don't understand that this came from the Ayatollah's mouth himself. I have a clip on it. I didn't have it ready for today. That women over there in Iran underneath the Ayatollah are considered animals. That came
Right.
from
They're
his
like
own
property.
words.
Exactly.
Yes. And these women who are liberals trying to protest against who they're protesting for, if they were over there, they would not survive. And this is what they have to
Well,
realize
they
what
might
could be
have their
coming here.
lip cut off, actually. They would cut
Exactly.
the tongue. They would cut their
Yes.
tongue for
Or
speaking
pour acid.
when they shouldn't.
Yes. And this
Because
is what,
one of the Sharice in law is eye for an eye. So if they actually do something, then it's equal that they should lose that thing. So it's very harsh. And people don't always understand that. But again, if I'm in their country, I respect because that's their way.
their
But
law.
don't come
Right.
to America and start trying to incorporate our values to what they think is right. That to me is an encroachment, and we need to defend ourselves if we're going to keep our identity, else we will lose it. We will start practicing Sharia law.
Yeah, you don't want Sharia law at all. Now, one more thing before we try to wind this down, because I know you have to go someplace else. What about the SAVE Act?
Actually, I'm going to a VA event that's giving an award to some people, and I'm going to support that over in Aurora.
Good.
And I
Tell
get
them
a free
about the
dinner,
freedom.
which is even better.
There
I
you
like
go.
food.
Tell them about the Freedom Paul service dogs down here in
I think we're
Chillicothe.
going to have fried chicken, and to me, that's great.
There you go. What about the SAVE Act? Voter ID.
Okay. That originated with Chip Roy, and you're kind of surprised by this because I thought we were going to talk only about Iran. But a good thing that I do prep up on this and I have a decent memorization, got me through Harvard. But the thing is that it started, as you might have heard, under House Representative Bill 22, HR 22. Chip Roy brought this, and it has came before, but this has the best chance now in modern time from the 118th Congress to coming now the 119th. They've changed it now to, they call it a packaging. And what they do is they put various laws underneath, just like I said with the Parental Rights Act that didn't go through on 118th. They put it under to the HR 650 when it was HR 5 with the Parental Rights Act. Now it's incorporated into the Family Rights and Responsibility Act. One thing you should know about this, what we've been talking with that's relevant, it not only includes parents knowing what their kids are getting taught, but it's also with religion. So if you don't want your kids to learn about Muslim, you don't want them to learn about Christianity, you don't want them to learn about Hinduism, the parents are informed so they could object before it's being taught. And it should be that way because that's what democracy is about. And it should be to the parents, not these people who are teachers and facilitators. Because even though I have family members that are administrators in school, they're only part-time parents. The parents still have the ultimate responsibility, just like Americans should have the ultimate decision of what they want as laws and what they want to support in their country that will affect them directly.
Exactly.
Going back to
Religion should be kept out of schools.
briefly to answer is that we need to support a safe it's called the Safe American Act, and it's off of HR 22 that proves IDs of citizenship. Some people say, why is that? What's the big problem? Well, you might have heard of Judicial Watch. Judicial Watch has proven, even with third parties, that over 5.8 million voters that voted in 2024 were invalid. There was people who were dead. There's people who have been getting registrations at a home that they moved out 5 years ago, and they still were able to vote in a state that they haven't been living in. So my point is that it's not saying that we're trying to manipulate a voting system. We're actually trying to create a fair voting system. Even that you heard in Georgia, there's people right there, they're doing deeper investigations, and they're finding out that people who are clerks, people who are trying to put ballots, were not being fair. They were literally manipulating the system to fair the system. I even did things with things that I know with people of poll judging. You go in and you look up on the screen and it says something like Scott Smith and it has an R. If you have more judges there who are Democratic, they might say, oh, well, we should check this person. And the same thing could go the other way. If you have some more Republican judges, they could say, oh, we shouldn't check this. But the key point is we need a system to remember that we're doing it for America, not party slate. And that's one of the reasons, I mean, I'm more conservative. I have conservative values. That's one of the reasons I cannot run as a Democrat. And people say, if you remember back in history, we used to have Jefferson with the Democrat Republicans. I mean, people change their particular terms, but the thing is, you get to know the person, you understand the values. And this is why we need to have to start understanding that we have to start getting back to the foundation of caring what Americans want and giving everybody the power who are the citizens, because that's what the forefathers want. So we need to pass an act. For example, people say, oh, people have problems with birth certificates. People have problems with naturalization papers. They marry, they change the name. They are correct. The names do change at times. However, you have these different methods. There's a clause in that particular Safe American Act that it goes to exception. You can look it up. It's under AG. I looked this up, Section 4. It says there's exceptions when you don't have proper identification. You could back it up with another proof of ID that you're a citizen. So if your name's changed, they also allow under that particular section to use your real DMV and then valid.
Right.
So there's we say, I'm not
You're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if the internet connection or what.
It seems the key point is that just trying to tell you, we don't always need that particular identification that they say it's too much of a hassle to go to Social Security and verify my name. Homeland Security already put a system where we have real IDs or you have passports that can be valid. It's a federal ID with your picture. So you cannot tell me you can't do that and be able to vote, because we have people right now, like we said, with 5.8 million and 1.5 million alone in the state of California that could win the governorship can actually get in and just vote. And here's another thing you should know. Mail-in ballots, because I've done this as being a precinct committee member and being an elected Republican committee member in my area. The thing, and just to give you a little tip, I'm the only elected Republican in this race of my opponents in the primary. We have a person who's a village president, but he's been an independent all the time, and he's in his 15th year. But a lot of mayors do. But again, there you have to look at certain things. And he actually took an endorsement from one of the three largest Democrat organizations, who is a top funder for Welch in Springfield. So I got some issues with that too. I actually refused their endorsement because of that. So there's a little why I state that is because now you know that I'm not going to change my values to just get into office or get a donation. But my point is that we need to support Jim to be able to give IDs, because it's been proven that people who get even mailers, the thing is they don't have to keep the signature card and verification. So the thing is people can literally just bring a ballot from a voter's list and start voting for whomever they want to vote and said this person mailed in a ballot. This is a big problem.
I mean, it used to be the only people that got mail-in ballots is the military, if you're out of the country for that time or something. And now it's just, it's overused because it can be manipulated and cheated on too much.
Not only overused, it's manipulated. You actually said the word, it's manipulated.
Yeah. Plus, you know, the voting machines were made, the Dominion voting machines were made in Venezuela. And the IP address went back to Venezuela.
Maduro's been caught now, so maybe it'll change.
Yeah, that's another big topic for another day. I'm going to bring up this.
But that's a good example you were talking about with Iran. Look at Maduro. I know people who are Venezuelan and they're cheering. They're so happy that he's gone because they get to have a fresh start. They're welcoming, like South Korea did, to be able to have U.S. aid and be able to have them help them develop a democracy. Now the people can speak instead of having the dictatorship of Maduro, who should have lost the election because he only won like 40% and his opponent, who was the engineer, won 60, but he changed the regulations and said the voting wasn't correct. And he literally took it when he should have been lost.
Well, see, the people don't realize what happened in Venezuela, what's happening in Iran, and what's probably going to happen in Cuba is all geopolitical, because real people don't realize that China is heavily involved in Venezuela, or they were, okay, which benefits their oil. Now, the same as Iran, China was heavily involved with that. Now it's affecting China's oil. So people don't understand that China's already been meddling in this so big. If we didn't get it stopped, us Americans would be screwed. And this is what Trump foresaw. And Trump back in 79 even mentioned about Iran. So Trump has not changed on his views at all, even when he was liked by the Democrats, because I always say the Democrats made Trump. That's my saying. But anyway, I want to bring up this because I know we're getting short on time, this video clip, and you know what it's about. And at the end of it, I'll let you talk about it, and then we'll bring up the other pictures. And here it comes.
Hi, Ambassador Kim is here, candidate for Congress, District 11. Please welcome Charilie Kim.
Thank you. One of the reasons that I'm appreciative to be able to talk with you is because I just finished in 2023 with Kosovo NATO forces, being in the military officers area for security force. And when I started realizing that they said, what's so special about democracy? And I told them what's special about democracy is because we believe in something. But I think we started losing this value of our country. And that's why I started realizing we need more democracy and understanding of what it means in our own country than overseas. And that's one of the reasons I'm running for U.S. Congress, because I realize the value of democracy. Just to give you a brief background of myself, I came from South Korea. I had a privileged life. I had 2 diplomatic grandparents. I had everything that I needed. We came to America. We failed at businesses. My story is not much different than a lot of your stories. So I'm not only speaking about my story, I'm talking about a lot of people who are immigrants who came to this country looking for the American dream. And the thing is that we ended up becoming homeless. I ended up coming from a diplomatic family with servants and maids, and then I had nothing. I was cleaning toilets with my mother at the age of 8. Because I was in a position where I came during the Vietnamese War. And the Vietnamese War, they called the communist Vietnamese Charlies. So I couldn't even sit at the lunch table, and I would eat my lunch in the hallways. So one of the things I want to tell you is I finally made it out, got a good time, and then I actually got to go to Homeless to Harvard. I went to Harvard Business, Harvard Law, Harvard Graduate School. I worked for the President's Office, Congress, and with NATO forces in the U.S. Department of State to be an ambassador. So I say to you, something that you should not stop believing is the American dream, because we still have it. But in order to have it, freedom isn't free. You must earn it. Thank you for listening, and God bless America and those who believe.
All right, thank you, Ambassador Charilie Kim, candidate for Congress, 11th District.
Well, that was my speech at a very nice formal that we had as you were there and you were taking pictures. And you saw our table. We're at the media table. The thing is that Tammy Duckworth, Senator Duckworth, and Congressman Robin Kelly, who's running also for the Senate right now, were there. And the thing is that there's a lot of people who, like you said, don't always understand. We have protesters, but that's the freedom of speech. That's what I defended halfway around the world. But a big problem we have now is that we have our leadership that is defending more for people who aren't even citizens to speak more than us who are citizens. And I did not fight for that. I did not put myself in harm's way. And I don't think a lot of people who are serving our country, including the people who are here in the States. Why I say this is because people don't always understand. One of my favorite movies, Jim, is actually It's a Wonderful Life with George Bailey. George Bailey couldn't be in the service, so-called military, because he jumped in to save his younger brother who was in ICE, and he ended up losing his hearing. So he didn't qualify a disability to be able to be in the military. Well, his brother ended up saving a whole ship and won the Medal of Honor from Congress because he was able to save that ship. But that brother would have never been able to do that and even live if he would have drowned in that cold water that George Bailey didn't help him with. And why I say this is so important, I hear people say about veterans and how they serve, but how about the people when in World War II gave the steel drives, gave the rubber drives, the Rosie the Riveter, who were the women who went to the manufacturing plants when the men ended up serving overseas. It is citizens as well as those serving across the nation and to the area of overseas with other countries to defend our country in military forces. Like I said, if you care about your country, you got to care about your community. And that starts with the people, citizens. Those citizens might become military. And the thing that I state when I talk, like you heard in the end, people ask me, well, what makes democracy so great? I said, we believe. We need to start believing again, Jim. We have lost that feeling. I know people who don't even want to vote because they think their vote doesn't count. You know, we've had approximately like 50 elections in our country by one vote made the difference. And one of the main things that you probably know, but a lot of people don't talk about, and we'll give one of the biggest history lessons that everybody should be telling their kids, in the time when it was to figure out if we're going to go to World War II, one vote made the difference to go into war that sacrificed thousands of lives on D-Day. This is why people don't understand how important their vote is. We
Bingo,
need to teach
because
them.
too many people say my vote don't count, but there's a prime example of it. One vote. And like I told people, your vote does count, especially your one vote, your one vote, your one vote, and one vote. But you have a prime example of where one vote made that difference. And
That was in Congress, but still,
well,
there's
still,
votes
yeah,
in elections of 60 votes for people to be in Congress as well as other government officials. But I gave that war example because people didn't know in Congress when they voted, it was one Congress member in this House of Representatives that voted to have war. And that is what triggered us to go to the area of World War II. And Russia was even
right.
our ally at that time. Isn't it
But it
scary?
still could happen.
Against
It could
Germany,
happen.
Nazis. Right, we're against
It could
Germany.
happen it could happen in a local election because you have fewer votes. I mean,
That's
you've
what I'm
seen
saying.
votes in local
It's more
elections, but
critical.
people don't realize these. Here's what I understand. I want people to understand your local elections, what's going on right now with the primaries for Illinois state reps, Illinois state senators, U.S. congressmen, U.S. senators, is just as important as the general election because those are the ones, if you get the right people in, they're not already in the GOP establishment. Okay. This is what we have an issue with is the people that's been established in the GOP or the Democratic Party for years and not the grassroots. I'm grassroots, Charlie's grassroots. And this is what we need in office now. But the other thing, there's so much money that these other candidates get that's in the GOP establishment or the Democratic establishment. It's hard for them to compete because they don't get the airtime on TV because it's not cheap. So anybody that's watched this, share this YouTube video and, because it's helping somebody that actually has it in his heart for this country who was uh, an immigrant. So it comes from nobody better. I'm not an immigrant, yeah, from way, way, way back in because the ancestors, like you said, the only ones originally here were the Indians. But my heart was with America. It always has been. It's not to be destroying America. If you want to go out there and protest about this bullshit that's going on, then you want to go to those countries and live there. That's my statement.
And well, one thing, Jim, I want to elaborate on what you said, which is important, I think. As you know, at that gala, there was 1,200 people. And you had people who were kind of objecting because we had a lot of liberal people there. But again, respect each other. When I was talking, people didn't always listen because they thought I was a Republican candidate, so they didn't want to hear it. But my point is that when someone like Robin Kelly spoke, people were listening more. And the thing is that even though ABC, NBC, and other kind of media was there, you know that we didn't get any airtime. Only airtime I got is being on that stage. They showed a picture when we were all up there with Senator with Senator Duckworth and Robin Kelly. Now I was by the podium in the area. But the key point is that we need to be able to give a fair chance to everybody. And that's the reason that I put myself halfway around the world and talked how democracy is great and how our country is great. But the funny thing is, we need more democracy in our own country than people overseas. They actually respect democracy. We seem to have lost that value. We don't respect it anymore. Again, you come to the country, respect the people who actually let you into the country and realize that you are there as a guest. And once you've proven yourself and put your stake, then you get to be able to contribute in a different manner. But until then, you have to understand that we have a culture. We have a country, the United States of America, where people still model us. Like I was saying, we have the US Constitution. We have one of the best systems, Jim. I used to always brag about it when we're overseas. We have the check and balance system. We have the judiciary with the US Supreme Court. We have the legislation with US Congress. We have the executive branch with the president and his cabinet members. They're supposed to watch out for each other because they're watching out for us. We've lost that value.
But the problem is,
that's the reason I'm trying to get back, trying to go to Congress, because that's what I'm trying to support. And if I perish in the duty, at least I have honor of doing my duty.
Shot. Right, because people don't realize even your judges, your Supreme Courts, they're biased. You know, they're not always. They're supposed. Remember this Justice Statue of Liberty. She's blinded. Okay, she's blinded because they're supposed to be blinded to different sides. And
that's the blindfold of justice, the pendulum.
Yes.
Right. And that's what we need again. Well, we've lost it. That's the problem. Yes. And that's what our forefather created. And the brilliance of our forefather, they gave the 10th Amendment to have states autonomy and be able to work. But that's one of the big problems we have with ICE right now. I don't blame the people who are trying to do their job in ICE. I blame the people that we're not cooperating at the state level to give them the information of where illegal immigrants might be that shouldn't be here, who are even criminals, gang members like MS-13. So our federal level has to try to guess where they're going. And the problem is, if we work together, we probably can capture the right people in a quicker amount of time with less resources that would cost taxpayers less money and keep our community safer. Like I said, Jim, you care about your country, you need to care about your community. And we need to work both federal, state, and local levels.
Right. I'm going to tell you one thing, how much of a patriot I am. A couple of years ago, we took a cruise ship out of New York. Okay. Past the Statue of Liberty. I'm the only one that started singing the Star Spangled Banner. But by the time I got done, I had 20, 30 people singing it, even foreigners. So it can be done. But that's what patriotism's about. You went past that Statue of Liberty, they should be singing the Star Spangled Banner every time they go by. But it just came over me. I started singing it, and I had other people singing. I had an Oriental woman just to my right. She started singing. And I mean, we have a deck full of people watching the Statue of Liberty go by, and I'm the only one that started singing the national anthem. That's my patriotism.
Right. Just like respect. Some people, when someone's actually saying a prayer, they can't just stop talking for a couple of minutes. When, like you said, when someone's saying the Pledge of Allegiance, even if they don't know the words, they can't just keep silent and be able to give the respect. And this is what I'm stating. Don't come to my home and start changing my furniture, because we have a culture. You came here to be able to incorporate, to have that culture. So don't come here and try to change things where you haven't earned that right. As I said, freedom isn't free, it's earned.
And these protesters that's protesting against what they're protesting about, they need to look at what's really happening on the other side. They need to look at what the people in Iran's been through for 40 some years, roughly. And the other countries where their freedom of speech is squashed because, you know, I've been to other countries. You respect their laws, because you cross that line, you're going to be put up someplace you don't want to be for a while. And their prisons, from what I heard, are not good in these other countries. So, I mean,
Unless
you're
you have
lucky.
diplomatic immunity.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Charlie. I know you got to get going. We're going to have to do this again. And I may even bring Ray Estrada
Well,
on.
if we win the primary, we will be here again, as you know.
Well,
so
even
people
if we
need to
don't,
vote and get the word out.
even if you don't win it, I hope you do. But we still have things, you know, nationwide, worldwide, that you're well versed on. Ray Estrada, you would like him. He's well versed. I've had him on my show about 3 times. He's out of Galesburg. I mentioned his name to you, and I'm going to reach out to him. We'll make it a time for you and him to be on the show together. Okay. So,
Sounds
Charlie,
good.
thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Everyone, take a look at this gentleman's background. Go to his website here. Go to his Facebook page. Research him. Research the other candidates, and you tell me how many people can stand up to Charlie's background. I don't think there are many.
And even
from what I can tell.
right, call or email me if you got questions or even comments for better Congress. That's what I'm here for. I got some ears of some of our biggest Congress members. So the thing is that's what I'm already doing. Like Jim says, you don't have to be a Congress member. You don't have to be a soldier. You can actually be a person who's effective as an American.
Just like
be
I'm
a
trying
citizen.
to do. Yep, that's
Right.
like I'm
Be a
trying to do is
citizen.
what I do with my world events. All right, Charlie, we're going to
Yes.
wrap this up. So I want to say thank you to anyone that's watched this, who will be watching it in the future. I'm James Freher from Chillicothe, Illinois, just north of Peoria, and I am the host of World Events on YouTube, which is youtube.com/@Snively57. Subscribe, like, comment. If you have a question for Charlie Kim, reach out to him on Facebook. Reach out. He'll get back to you. He likes to talk. So that I know sometimes it's hard to get him to stop. But
We
Charlie,
got like a lot of volunteers too, hundreds of volunteers. So someone will get back to you. We'll even give you a sign.
There you go. Take a sign, put in the yard, and go vote. I don't care if you haven't voted for. If you're not registered, go get registered, because right now you can register and vote at the same time. You have till March 17th.
Or you can bring your ID and actually vote on the same day. You don't have to be registered.
Yes.
Just prove your citizenship.
Yep.
God
exactly.
bless.
So let's get it done. Vote. Oh, you got the midterms here in Illinois, March 17th.
Sure.
And then hopefully we can turn a lot of these districts red, like Charlie's district, which is 11th. And what towns do you really cover in your district, Charlie?
It might be better to go by counties. We have 8 counties. We have Kane. We have the area of Boone, Lake, McHenry, DuPage, Will, well, parts of Will side, and Cook. So our area is pretty large, and it has approximately a population of 1 million. I've already pulled some of the polls. It's about 500,000 that vote. So hopefully it'll work in the primary with Republicans. There's about 55,000 we found. We look very strong in the polls. We have more majority, about 53, 60% on some counts. So it looks like I should be able to have another interview with you in the months coming up, but you never know.
Right.
But again,
people need to
Well,
vote, because
what I
just saying it
and what I say
doesn't do it.
and what I tell people, just don't listen to these politicians or people
The
that's running for
rhetoric,
office mouths. Okay,
right?
research them, dig into them, because sometimes they're going to tell you what you want to hear. They get in the office and they don't have the background. I mean, they don't have the experience. I mean, a lot of them do, but you don't want to just listen to what they're saying. You want to research their backgrounds. Look at each candidate, not because of their name or what they look
Or
like or
talk
their
to them,
money, or talk to
right?
them
Talk,
and go.
yeah, and then
And
you'll find out their depth.
when these candidates have
And
these
you've
events,
talked to me several times, Jim, and you're very well rounded. So you know as well as
yep,
I do that a lot of people you spoke to, and you've met a lot of candidates who are even in
yep,
office. I'm pretty strong. I could keep up with a lot of them, and
yep, you
actually may
can.
know more.
And there's candidates that right now I don't back because of things of what they are and what they've done. So, and their knowledge or their workings, because I've looked at all these candidates, especially for the governor. So I know where my choice is right now. Everyone has to make their own choice out of the four governors. But right now, let's get these local ones in there for Congress, U.S. Congress, Senate, Illinois reps and Senate, and vote. Anyway, Charlie, God bless you. I always love talking to you. We need to see each other again. And if you're out at these events, you see Charlie's going to be at an event, go see him. That's what these events are for. Okay. And the meet and greets. Go out and meet him, talk to him, ask him questions, send him dagger questions. I gave him one. He was a little bit not ready for it because I don't tell him what questions I'm going to ask. They just come up in mind as we're going. And he handled it perfectly. So, Charlie, again, thank you. God bless you. God bless the United States and God bless his world. And thank you all.
Thank you.